Hello, I'm John, the lead analyst at NPD covering media entertainment. We're going to take the next 5 minutes and review the top TV shows and movies that drove engagement over the past year, with a focus on what it means for content production, distribution, and sales of related consumer products. A little background is necessary before we start talking about watching TV. That is, 2020 was likely a false peak of TV driven by the pandemic. Summing up all of the research we've done in the past few months, one phrase says it all: we're not watching as much TV as we were before. This suggests peak viewership was reached last year, and we're now in a slow decline. This is not a sky is falling message. Indeed, viewership remains far above 2019 levels. However, it's a key indicator that the hypergrowth streaming era is turning into a competition for share of our time, making programming more valuable than before. So let's get into it. Last March, you likely binged Tiger King, as most of us needed to abandon reality. In fact, 44 million US Netflix households watched 263 million hours of Tiger King. That's 68% of their subscriber base. This theme, escapism programming, continued to drive viewership during the pandemic. And we saw the magnitude and speed of viewer engagement that could be driven by a single series released at the right time. As viewers, many of us looked for comfort titles, often driven by nostalgia. Netflix procured the rights to Cobra Kai and rebroadcast seasons 1 and 2 as they worked on production for season 3. The scale of the audience for season 1 and 2, 20 million homes within 4 weeks, drove a quick decision to greenlight the production of season 4. During January, season 3 generated an even larger audience of nearly 24 million homes, which likely impacted the decision to greenlight season 5. In the fall, many of us learned chess is actually quite intense. We also got another example of how rapidly streaming can amass an audience of 22 million homes. Queen's Gambit, the #1 show on Netflix that month, generated 122 million hours of engagement from a 7-episode miniseries. We actually watched it all in less than a week, which was the norm among those that binge watched the series. But in addition to viewership success, the show contributed to doubling the revenues generated from chess set sales during the holiday season. In fact, nearly 500,000 of us bought a chess set after the show aired. This demonstrates how effectively streaming sells consumer products. The timing is a critical thing to consider as viewership and the associated buzz drops off within a month of a Netflix series releasing. Procuring retail shelf space is something that should occur in tandem with the streaming release, not months after awareness wanes. As winter set in, around 10 million of us watched the holiday movie on Amazon Prime. That amounts to 15% of the Prime Video audience, showing that holiday programming builds significant engagement. Check out the top 10 list of holiday movies. It's likely you watched at least one last year. Here in New York, we tuned in to see It's a Wonderful Life, and I have to say I prefer the black and white version. Maybe it's that nostalgia thing going on again. There aren't many movies about Queens, New York, but you may have been one of the 31 million households that tuned into Coming to America since it released in March. It's become the #1 movie on Prime, showing that new movies can engage a massive streaming audience akin to a theatrical exhibition. In fact, nearly half of Amazon Prime users watched Coming to America. Spring, it got dark after we watched 122 million hours of The Handmaid's Tale on Hulu. I'm not going to spoil it for the few of you that didn't watch the series yet, but season 4 took gruesome to a new level. But the key here is related to the release cadence. Most series drop on Netflix all at once. And as you've seen today, the audience dissipates within a month, often faster. Hulu released season 4 of The Handmaid's Tale across an 8-week span and retained their audience for that run. You can even see pretty strong residual viewership for another 4 weeks throughout July. That is in part being driven by viewers of the show that started watching from season 1. As you think about subscriber retention strategies during this period of viewership decline, a staggered release schedule should be a consideration. Well, this summer we did it. We completed The Calling and we saved Manifest. Fans of the show came out in droves to see what happened to Flight 828. Actually, 31 million households, nearly half of the Netflix subscriber base tuned in. This exceeded the audience of their #1 original Bridgerton, as well as their rebroadcast of You season 1. As with You, Netflix saved the series, well, us fans did, and the show has been revived with season 4 in production. Most importantly for us, we've learned that the scale of streaming services has the potential to generate an audience larger than broadcast TV. So what's next? We watched way too much TV and we're reeling it in, making it a competition for share of our time. Quality content, it remains king, regardless of distribution medium. While this is cliche, it's also true and it needs to be remembered. TV series build a streaming audience that's large enough to sell consumer products, but timing is everything. Viewership nosedives within a month or two if you have a staggered release schedule. New release movies, they engage a massive streaming audience. It's akin to a theatrical run. But at the end of the day, measurement optimizes your revenue potential. Know the value of your content when negotiating a distribution deal. Know the size of your audience when considering a green light for the next season. And secure retail shelf space for related consumer products at the time of your streaming release, not months later after the awareness declines. Thank you so much for your time today.